You laid a brush on a Cintiq tablet. You didn't lay, and there's other issues about thought processes and how you determine that and things like that. But no, it is not nearly as satisfying. That I put my hand on a piece of paper, it's not nearly as satisfying to me. I manipulated the model. One of the things about, well, I'm going to show you in just a minute, actually. Let me do that. Let me show you this. Get to another film. Oh, that's not the one I want to show you, but I'm going to show it to you then. I'm going to go to another issue now. And the issue is going back to the sense of awe. What I'm going to show you is about a minute and a half from a movie called The Great Escape, which is a prisoner of war movie we made years, about 1966, I think.
Steve McQueen.
63. Yep. Steve McQueen.
His real name on his birth certificate
is Steve McQueen.
Terrence Steve McQueen.
Oh, well.
Steve is his
There you
middle name.
go. There you go. With an E or an A?
It's true.
With a Terrence with an E or Terrence with an A?
I don't know.
See, there you
I do know that they misspelled Terrence and Philip in South Park with an A.
see, there
It's
you go.
Terrence with an A.
In this scene, this is
Yeah.
a very famous scene. When it showed in the theaters in 1963, people gasped at this escape. It's a motorcycle escape. And then I'm going to show you a motorcycle sequence from Matrix Reloaded. Okay? Let's go. Cool sequence. Best thing in the movie, I thought. The first one was Steve McQueen. Actually, it was his stuntman. He did almost all the riding, but the actual jump, which was about 50 feet, was his stuntman. And it was a real jump. They really jumped that barbed wire fence, and it was really cool, and we really liked it back then. But it was no long shot, because if they got closer, we would have seen it wasn't Steve McQueen. We couldn't have then gone in and pixelated his face and made it into Steve's face or anything like that. And then we saw a Matrix, and we saw what essentially was a blue screen shot of them coming over the top of that truck. Blue screen, and we all know it. We know that it's a blue screen shot.
They're going to the traffic signal.
It is a sense, what I call viewer pessimism. I didn't make that term up. It is a sense that the viewer looks at the thing and goes, well, it's all blue screen. It's done with a computer. Now,
I know it's all real.
the fact is that it is. That it's a stunt woman doing really good. Now, the ping over the truck is blue screen. Absolutely.
Most of the cars weren't there either.
Yes, that's true.
Most of the cars were
I
there.
thought most of them were.
No, most of the cars are not. There's footage of it. There's footage.
Yeah,
She was going through cones, and the cones are removed, and then they added anything that she's getting really close to, like the two trucks going by like that, weren't there. Cars that are going. There were some cars in the shot, but they're kind of lagging back. But it was really her driving. But viewer pessimism says it's all CG. If I saw, when I watched Lord of the Rings 3, Lord of the Interminable Rings, and I saw those elephants and 7,000 guys and guys rolling around, and it was really cool to look at, but the back of my mind I was also saying, it's CG. And that becomes this kind of, that also adds the lack of awe, because we know it's not real.
But doesn't that come into play with both the examples you gave, both in The Matrix and Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Those are fantasy to begin with.
Yes, they
a
are.
guy jumping a barbed wire fence, that's not, that's in the realm of reality.
Yes.
So,
And
I mean, couldn't that contribute to it? Because in The Matrix, we expect them to basically be superheroes when they're in The Matrix.
Right.
And in Lord of the Rings, the Oliphants are obviously fake because
My-
they don't exist.
my issue would be, let's say they made Great Escape today. What would they have done? When Steve McQueen jumps over.
Where he goes over.
You go and he goes and you see the wheel turning in slow motion and you see, yeah, and it goes and goes and goes, and then the audience knows that it's in the back of their head, even though it's part of the story and the storytelling, you know, in the back of their head that.
But how would you do Lord of the Rings before special effects? Like, you can't.
One guy did. Ralph Bakshi made a Lord of the Rings
I love
years
that
ago.
version.
And he's the only guy that likes it, but it was a rotoscoped version of it, and by the time he got to that particular part of the movie, they'd run out of money, and it was pretty obvious that the guys were wearing gorilla masks, and it was very. Actually,
half the series. So.
Yeah. And you're right, you probably couldn't. However, as cool as it looked, and it did look cool, to me, it didn't carry the weight. And there's fantasy movies with big crowds. To me, because I know in the back of my head that it's CG, I can enjoy it for the image, but it doesn't carry the same weight as the idea that there are people involved, unlike the people who are actually making it.
I like just a little deeper actually on this stuff, like reality, just real fast. And part of it is just, if they're good enough, we should just be in the story, and we should, we should just watch the visuals and enjoy the story.
Yeah.
I mean, for us as animators, we're all kind of have this idea that we're watching CG, so it's kind of good for us, but for normal people, I think they get lost in the story.
That's where we're going.
Yeah, because
I'm not sure they get lost in the story.
Well, I mean, but they're just in the moment. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an experience.
I'm a normal person.
Yeah.
I am business major. Yeah, I get lost in the story.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to go with this,
Whereas-
because we'll go there in a little while. My point is, what's the good story?
Yeah. I mean, I think epic visuals are just, I mean, I like watching 2012, and because I know things can happen.
And by the way, 2012 is a pretty terrible story.
It's a horrible story. but I mean, what do we call it? Disaster porn?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like rewatch it for
For
I mean,
a more apt comparison to the Steve McQueen movie, couldn't you say like any of the Bourne movies, or say Italian Job, with much more realistic chase scenes? I mean, there's nothing necessarily glaring like, oh my God, it's CG.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
Like in those examples.
And
So
sometimes,
I would say,
and the fact is, sometimes it's not.
yeah, a lot like the Italian Job, like the very famous, very famous chase
And like the
scene
Bourne
there, the vast
Identity,
majority
they
of
did
it
all
is
this.
fully real.
It's fully real, and what the problem is when the audience is well at CG,
but they
because
don't-
it's viewer pessimism.
But
saying,
they don't
you know, it's
think.
not.
I don't know.
Well, no,
about
I
that.
mean, I think we have a warped sense because we are animators.
Yeah.
I look at things and I'm like, oh, what passes are they using, and what's Compton, and what's
And, and therein lies, at the end of it, therein lies the dilemma, because that isn't a story. That is cool technique.
well, that's for me though.
Yeah,
So
for
the
you,
normal
for you.
person, they're like, oh,
Matrix of
cool. Like,
Sometimes.
But they go,
And that will be my lament at the end, and it doesn't have to do with CG, it has to do with storytelling.
and I think the better they get too. I mean,
I think the better the story is, the more willing people are to suspend belief about the effects.
Yeah,
if
maybe
the
so.
story's poor to begin with, a lot of people will be really distracted by bad effects.
No,
I think the better
I
is the
actually,
effects.
they think it's better than it is.
That's
And then you leave and you go, wait a minute, I was eating cotton candy there. I thought it was steak,
Yeah.
and I don't remember anything about it except the cool visual effects. We'll go there in a
Yeah,
minute.
but Jurassic Park, I think, did a great job of, even though you knew it was fake,
Yeah.
you kind of felt like you were there.
Well, and that goes to something Ray Harryhausen told me once about his pictures. Now, when his pictures came out, everybody thought they looked realistic too. Wow, look at the skeletons in Jason the Argonauts and all that, and the giant Cyclops. You know, they thought that was realistic. And today we look. And I'm gonna go to the next picture actually, and we'll talk about that. Okay, let me press the button.
Although I've never